Hello and welcome to another episode of Chatting with the Voices in My Head. Written by, starring, and guest appearances by Blaine Shields. Now, many of you may have been searching all over for last week's video and having not found it, likely messaged over to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram asking, where the heck is my favorite program? Sorry, I had a bit of a hiatus as I was in the midst of some terrible arguments with myself over the material I'd put together while I was like, Blaine, you simply can't do that. It's not your best work, and quite frankly, I feel like you're not sharing anything helpful with the world at large. So, what are we going to share today? Well, I just wanted to return to the world of voices, dramatic tones, accents, and how they can affect one's reading. Recently, Neil Kaplan, who many will remember for his voicing of over 142 characters in video games, cartoons, television shows, and movies. He's voiced characters for Marvel, Naruto, Attack on Titan, Dragon Quest, Gears of War, Voltron, Power Rangers, Transformers, as Optimus Prime, and many, many more. Well, he recently asked on Twitter if he were to do videos of himself reading off strongly worded reviews, would anyone watch them? To which I responded jokingly that if he was to read off dramatically voiced readings of the labels of soup cans, I would watch. And it got me to thinking about how much the tone, vocalizations, dramatic inflections, accents, and so forth affects the words being read and how the audience receives it. A few years ago, way before the age of the Rona, I was recording off news videos for DHS-TSA for the state of Illinois, which were previously simply put into reading forms for officers to look at. And in and of itself, most of the reports were not hugely gaining attention of the TSA readers. So I put the documentation to video and decided to add music, inflections, accents, and video shenanigans, which, for many, gained their attention and had them looking forward to the next news report. My thoughts were that if you wanted to gain and hold someone's attention, you couldn't simply use the tone of Ferris Bueller's teacher. Bueller. It's not going to work, but rather you needed to use rich and exciting tones, vocalizations that showed that you were interested in what you were talking about as well, and more. And you know what? It worked. Let me give you a few examples in the reading of some rather biting yet humorous actual film reviews. For the film Bright. While I had the misfortune to see Bright in the theater, most people will simply press play out of a curiosity on their Roku remote. I'm willing to concede that this might elevate the experience a little. The ability to take a quick trip to the kitchen or the restroom after shouting, "No, don't pause it!" to your partner on the couch will be liberating. Jordan Hoffman, Vanity Fair. The Other Woman. I know what you're thinking. Enough beating around the bush. Just tell us if you liked it. Consider this, which I will say in terms the movie would understand. If you were on an airplane, The Other Woman would not be preferable to simply staring at your empty airsick bag. But it has enough nicely executed physical comedy that in the event that you become ill, it's definitely preferable to staring into your occupied airsick bag. Linda Holmes, NPR. Twilight. I've had mosquito bites that were more passionate than this undead, unrequited, and altogether unfun pseudo-romantic riff on Romeo and Juliet. Mark Solov, The Austin Chronicle. Sex and the City 2. When viewed as a rom-com, Sex and the City 2 is a terrible and crappy and horrific inversion of everything that the show once was. But when viewed as a science fiction film, SATC 2 is subversive, stylish, and chilling. Like the island from Lost, we may never know the city's true identity. Is it a VR computer program? A malevolent interdimensional god? Satan? Syriac Lamar, IO9. One Missed Call. The kid in front of me spent most of the movie playing Tetris on his phone. I didn't care enough about the movie to ask him to stop or to find a cooler game. Wesley Morris, The Boston Globe. Transformers, The Last Night. I'll admit, I've been dreading the thought of trying at all to explain the plot of this movie, even in broad, simple terms. I honestly had anxiety dreams last night about this moment. It's like staring at a projected kaleidoscope for 2.5 hours and then trying to tell someone about the plot. Mike Ryan, Up Rocks. Life Itself. Life itself thinks you're stupid. Or if you're not stupid, unable to understand how a movie should work. It's a movie made for people who can't be trusted to understand any storytelling unless it's just not spoon-fed, but ladled on, piled high, and explained via montage and voiceover. Kate Erblund of IndieWire. Grown-ups. This movie is a symptomatic of a social attitude that might be called the security of incompetence. There's something reassuring about a bad movie that doesn't ask you to think or feel or even pay attention. We can all be happy D- students huddled together in a communal self-disgust in a D- world. Stephen Holden, The New York Times. Now remember, using vocalization, accents, tones, and such can not only help brighten up your everyday recordings or conversations, but they can also help make harsh statements a little easier to digest and maybe even hide the true meaning. For instance, I could say, "I can't stand being in the same room with you. You're a terrible person and should be taken out back and buried." Or, seeing you here right now, I'm afraid that I feel I shouldn't even be in the same room. You always manage to remind me of how much better people can be. I hate to say goodbye, but I'm afraid that I'm needed elsewhere, and I hope that you have a great time tonight and that you have a lovely and peaceful rest later. It's truly the same thing either way, but one leaves the person feeling like, hey, they might have been complimented, even though they haven't. Remember, you are loved. Until next time, ciao.